Hey Wolfpack, before we start this video, I'd like to say that I have a Christmas sweater out for sale currently, and it's only available till the end of December. You can use code CHRISTMAS for 20% off your order, and all proceeds go right back into the channel. Now, let's talk about intruders. Have you yourself had any experiences with them? Please comment your experience down below, and I will read them all. With that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. My hands are shaking as I type this. I feel horrible about what I did. I can't shake the telltale heart vibes coursing through my heart and veins. Sorry, I realize I'm stalling. Maybe you guys can help me sort out my thoughts. It all happened a few days ago. My parents were on vacation in Italy. I'd like to pretend that I'm not jealous, with their church group, so I was left to stay in our house alone. I don't have any siblings, so my parents told me to have friends stay over so that I wasn't alone at night. They're pretty overprotective, so it made them feel better to have people stay with me. Usually, they'd never want my boyfriend staying overnight, but given the circumstances, they were okay with it. After a few nights of staying with my friends, my boyfriend and I convinced my parents that he could stay over. He promised me we'd both be clothed and he could sleep on the couch if I wanted. We had a pizza and played video games until around 10. Then we put on a movie and cuddled a bit on an oversized suede couch. We were both pretty tired after that, so we fell asleep on the couch around 1 a.m. in the morning. I was really comfortable on it, and I felt really secure with my boyfriend there. That all changed around 3 a.m. I'm not sure what woke me. It might have been some strange noise or a sudden shift in the air. I sat up on the couch groggily. My boyfriend was still knocked out on the couch, his arm dangling lazily to one side. Dazed, I scanned the room, and that's when I saw it. There was a man standing in the archway between our living room and the hallway to the basement stairs. He was just standing there, staring at my boyfriend and I. His hair was wild and sticking out in different directions, but it was too dark to make out any of the features. My body froze, but not before a scream escaped my throat. My boyfriend jolted up, suddenly wide awake. "What the hell?" I felt my breath tremble as he let out a small gasp. Seeing the man too, he grabbed the TV remote as a weapon instinctively and clenched his jaw in anticipation. The man rushed at us and I screamed again, recoiling as hard as I could. "Back the hell off!" My boyfriend screamed, trying to push the fear out of his voice. The man stopped in his tracks and threw his hands up in the air. "Shh," he said, trying to silence us as we stared at him in fear. "I'm not here to do anything to you. Just listen to me." My boyfriend and I stood there, frozen, calculating our next move. I don't know if my parents had a secret stash of guns anywhere, and my softball bats, crowbar, and other heavy tools were in the garage. If my boyfriend and I lunged at him, he could kill us. Who knows what he had on him? The man stepped closer into a patch of light illuminated by the digital clock on top of my TV. I recognized him instantly. He was the local druggie who lived just across the street. He was always high on something. The police were constantly on his trail. My dad has put in numerous complaints to the homeowners association about the state of his sloppy and ill-maintained house, as well as to the police because of the shit he always pulled late at night that kept us up while he was drunk or high out of his mind. I couldn't remember his name, Kyle or Carl something, but everyone in the neighborhood knew to stay away from him. Let me explain," he frantically whispered. His eyes were darting from side to side. There was a look of panic on his face. The pupils of his eyes were extremely dilated. His eyes were bright red, and there were bruises up and down his limbs. I've never really done any drugs, so I had no idea what he was on, but it was clear he was either tripping on something or utterly insane. My boyfriend eyed him down and said once again, "You need to get the hell out." The guy got a pleading look in his eye and said something like, "No, you don't understand. This house is the only place that's safe. They're coming for me! He was wobbling and stumbling around. I saw that he was in no condition to hurt us, and my boyfriend and I could easily beat the daylights out of him. Who's coming for you? I asked, extremely creeped out by his last statement. I knew you could hallucinate weird shit, but this guy was taking it to the extreme. Does it matter? My boyfriend cut me off. He focused on the man. You need to get out of here, buddy. The man started rambling. It was coming out of his mouth so fast, but I'll do my best to recall what he said. No, you don't get it. Please, just let me stay. This house is the only protection place. It's safe. His bullshit ravings caught me off guard, but he continued. They've been chasing me. The shadows, those demons in my ears. I'm not safe anywhere else. Alright. My boyfriend's fear turned to anger as he rushed at the man. It's time for you to leave. Get your hands off me! The man screeched in an unbearably high tone. This isn't even your house, lover boy. My stomach dropped even further. He knew I lived here. I hated to admit that I was deeply afraid. You need to get the hell out of here. My boyfriend and I had to physically push him out the door and onto the porch. I tried my best to keep my hands from shaking. The man ran for his life as soon as he was outside. My boyfriend called the police and explained what happened, but I was too shaken up to speak. I kept thinking about what the man had said. Something about spirits chasing him. What was my house even safe from? If it was all some big drug trip, why would he choose my house? I decided not to think about it and thanked my boyfriend for calling the cops. Understandably, we didn't want to stay in my house after the incident, so he offered to drive me to his house where I could stay the night. Since it was my house the man broke into, I was pretty shaken up and didn't want to relive it by telling my story to the police just yet. So I went and packed up a few things from my stay at my boyfriend's while he handled the police. They searched the house and found the man had gotten in through the back door leading into the deck. It's a pretty flimsy door, so all he had to do was break the lock and slip in. I was finally able to give the cops my statement, and they went outside to check around the yard and look for the guy while my boyfriend drove me to his house. They were pretty familiar with the man. I was right, his name was Carl, since he's gotten into trouble for all sorts of things, so they didn't hesitate to believe us, and knew who they were searching for. My boyfriend and I did our best to get some sleep on the couches in his basement. In the morning, I called my parents to explain what had happened. They freaked out as usual. I tried to convince them to stay on vacation. I was a big girl after all. But they insisted on booking the next flight home and would be back the following day. It was a Saturday, so I spent my day going to various friends' houses so I wouldn't have to go back home. That night, when I was over my boyfriend's, I got a call on my cell phone from a police officer working the case, saying they found Carl's body in the wooded bike trail around my neighborhood. I felt the wind being knocked out of me, but I pressed for more details. The officer told me he wasn't allowed to tell me any more information, and then hung up. I was stunned. My boyfriend did a quick Google search and found that the story had already been leaked into the news. The articles didn't show any pictures or mention my family's house, but the words they used painted a clear enough picture to have me curled up on the couch, speechless. The most reliable article said that a jogger had found Carl's body that morning on the trail and immediately called the police. The chief of police showed up, along with the coroner, to investigate, and what they saw horrified them. Carl was lying in a pool of his own blood. The coroner deduced that he had likely died right there, rather than being placed post-mortem and whisked the body away. The autopsy showed that Carl had died from blunt force trauma, likely from a fall of great distances, but the trees around the stretch of trail weren't very tall, and they were pretty flimsy. Carl couldn't have just climbed a tree and killed himself. The worst part, though, is that Carl's body was mangled, not sprawled out from the fall, but physically mangled. His limbs were twisted around his torso in knots, and his face was completely disfigured, like someone had been trying to make mashed potatoes out of him. To make it worse, all of his toes and teeth were completely gone, and all of his hair was burned. One witness described him as not even looking human. Right now, the police are trying to find the killer, but something tells me they won't find anyone. My boyfriend dismissed Carl's claims as the rants of a raving lunatic and refuses to entertain the idea that any of it was true, but I couldn't rule that possibility out. I've never believed in demons or anything, but whatever happened to Carl couldn't have been done by a couple of angry drug dealers. What if he was right? What if he really wasn't going to take anything or hurt us, and he really was hiding from something? What if they, whoever they were, got to him? I can't shake that guilty feeling that I led a man, albeit an insane one, to his death. Do any of you have any advice? In April 2013, I came down with the flu. It was the first time I had the flu in many years, and I had forgotten just how shitty a high fever makes you feel. My skin hurt and I pretty much just wanted to die. My mom brought over some chicken noodle soup and texted me every day to check up on me, making sure I was still alive, drinking enough water, you know, mom things. She also brought me a hefty supply of nighttime cold and flu medicine, which blissfully knocked me out every evening. Normally, I'm a very light sleeper, but with this stuff in my system, I slept like the dead. At the time, I lived in a 2-bedroom ground floor apartment. I never really warmed up to the idea of living on the ground floor, but there was a shortage of rentals in my town, so I took what I could get. I wasn't particularly concerned about break-ins, and I'm a very private person, and didn't like the thought of passerbys looking in through my windows. However, my apartment was in the back of the building and looked out on a strip of grass and a tall wooden fence, so there wasn't a lot of foot traffic. Still, I kept my blinds closed most of the time, especially at night. On the evening of April 9th, I took my flu meds and moved from the couch to the bed around 8 p.m. I closed the bedroom door, like I always do. It just feels cozier, and it also blocks some sounds from the early risers next door. The last time I remember looking at the clock was just before 9 p.m. When I woke up the next morning, my bedroom door was open. I've experienced what was called false awakenings before. This is when you dream that you wake up as usual in your bed and start going about your day, and then, eventually, you wake up again for real. It's extremely disorienting and tends to make you question reality. I considered that this might be the case here, or that I've gotten up in the middle of the night without remembering. But as I groggily made my way into the living room, it became clear that neither of those options was the correct one. There was dirt tracked all over the carpet. My almost brand new computer monitor was gone. Someone had jimmied the patio door lock in the middle of the night, rummaged through my things, and watched me sleep. My sleep tracking app recorded one single audio file that night. Of course, they never caught the guy, or others. My insurance eventually paid out a small amount for the monitor, but it wasn't the material loss that bothered me. The violation of privacy was 100 times worse. If your house gets broken into, you will never feel safe there again. The thought that a stranger stood in my home in the dead of night and watched me while I slept, alone, is something I can never really get over. Anything could have happened. I could have been killed. I've moved since, of course. I now live on the 7th floor in another town, in another building with better locks. But whoever did this is still out there somewhere. I think there's someone in my closet. At first, it wasn't a big deal, but now, I don't think I'll ever be the same again. Let me explain. The strange occurrences all began 2 weeks prior. I was walking home from school with my best friend Sasha. "You think Jake will ask me to the winter formal?" The blue-eyed beauty all but squeals. The winter formal is a sorry excuse for a dance if you ask me. Rolling my eyes, I answer, "I don't know, why don't you ask him?" Sasha gasps, stopping immediately on the cracked and withering sidewalk that we've walked down for the past 3 years together now. "Oh please, there's no need for the theatrics, it's a silly dance." My breath is visible each time I open my mouth. The wind catches the white cloud and carries it away. I instinctively throw my arms around myself. The windbreaker I threw on this morning does nothing to deflect the frigid December air. "Please, can we go? I'm freezing." I shiver. At this time of the year, Denver is in Iceland. Well, in my opinion at least. See, I've never been one to handle the cold. I can't even stand the frosty breathing of the refrigerator at home for too long. Sasha blinks once, then twice. I can't ask Jack. That's ludicrous. Sasha throws her hands in the air, storming past me. Wow, using your big girl words, I see. I snort. My mother always told me I was an unusual child. I never got scared or nervous like other girls my age. I still don't. I have no problem texting a guy first, or asking him out. I have no stage fright or fear of the dark. I haven't been truly scared in ages, until this moment on. Sasha? I ask, finding that her long blonde hair is the only part of her that is moving as it dances delicately in the frosty breeze. She's completely frozen, and something tells me it isn't due to the cold. What's wrong? I ask, coming up beside her. She's blinking, as if finally remembering to do so. Then her eyes find mine, pupils enlarged. I think someone's in your room, she almost whispers. What? Immediately, I forced myself to look up into my bedroom window. It's on the second floor, nearly enclosed in frost that bites the end of the grass in our front lawn as well. Are you sure? I ask, drawing closer to the driveway, as if I'll somehow get a better view from there. Still, there's nothing. It couldn't be my mother. She's working overtime at the hospital. My father, well, he hasn't been a part of my life since I was a little girl. I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing things. I should get home. My mom's making chicken noodle soup tonight. Sasha adjusts the straps on her backpack and begins walking away. She lives a couple houses down, just a short walk away if I need an escape. See you tomorrow? I ask, my voice echoing in the silence of the afternoon as my friend is now a couple yards away. She simply waves, never turning back as she walks away. Well shit, now I'm left to go inside by myself. What if Sasha really had seen someone in my room, and it wasn't just a figment of her imagination? That's what I diagnosed this situation as, a figment of her imagination. Because later tonight, I have my mom go through every inch of my room with me, and there's nothing. There's no trace of anyone or anything ever being in my room except for me. I go to sleep, an uncertain feeling bubbling in my stomach the entire night. A couple of days pass without much, if any, odd experiences. The other night, when my mom was working late again, and I was in the living room, I did hear creaking and what sounded to be shuffling coming from upstairs, but I brushed it off as my mind playing tricks on me. Still, I can't help but feel uneasy about everything. It's today, a cold and muggy Saturday afternoon, that I'm finally beginning to trust the unease inside of me. It's just Sasha and I. Of course, my mother is never home these days, and I decided I didn't want to be alone tonight. Not just because of the storm closing in outside, but because I began to feel uncomfortable in my own home, especially alone. Call it paranoia or call it intuition, but I can't rid of the feeling that something is off. Sasha, being the rebellious teen she is, invites Jack, her longtime crush, and one of his older friends over to my place for a little late night fun, whatever that is. I think I've got a pretty good idea though. When the boys show up 30 minutes later, I must say I'm relieved. They're both surprisingly muscular and intimidating. Jack's a sporty guy, and as for his friend, well, he's in college. He's just automatically all the more intimidating. We brought booze. Jack holds up a crate of beer when walking through the front door. Hey, you ever thought about patching up that garage window of yours? Says Jack's friend Ramon, I think is his name. What? My blood runs cold. I look towards Sasha as if to find her as panicked as I feel, but she's too busy flirting with Jack, who has now taken off his coat and shoes, leading Sasha to the kitchen ahead. Yeah, the window's broken. My dad is pretty good at fixing shit. He could probably help you out if you want. Ramon shrugs, discarding of his coat as well. I nod, unable to find words that match my rising panic. After a couple beers and light chatter, I pass the broken window off as a result of the oncoming storm, and my worry is gone, at least for now. The four of us are sitting on my living room floor, finishing yet another round of Spin the Bottle. Jack and Sasha are long gone, faces smushed so near to another, kissing like goddamn cats in heat. That's when Ramon scoots just a tad closer, thinking he's being sly. He swings an arm over my shoulder and pulls me in. I'd be lying if I said he's not a good kisser, so when we start hooking up, I'm not prone to running away as I've done many times before, as a result of not enjoying the experience. This time, it isn't me who ruins the mood. It's the unpleasant thumps from upstairs, specifically my bedroom. The hell? Jack curses, out of breath. Sasha wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, fixing her shirt and tangled hair. "What was that?" asks Ramon, still impossibly close to my side. I blink, eyes fixated on the looming darkness upstairs. From where we sit, we have a clear view of the narrow hallway on the top of the stairs. It's pitch black and eerie as all hell. Sasha gulps noticeably. "I'm starting to think there really is someone in your room, Melanie." I nod in quiet understanding. The boys widen their eyes, and as all boys do, they put on a brave face and end up using the flashlights on their phones as they start upstairs and into my bedroom. I'm now completely sober and aware of the darkness lurking around us, so I go to turn on the overhead lights, but of course, none work. After a couple drawn-out minutes, Sasha's heavy breathing becomes the only sound to be heard throughout the house, and it's unsettling. "What's taking them so long?" asks Sasha. It's the same question I've been asking myself for several minutes now. Should we go check?" Sasha peers up into the darkness above. There's nothing. Not even a shadow, nor a creak in the floorboards. "I guess so." I sigh. Grabbing a flashlight from the drawer in the kitchen, I shine the beams of white light up into the dark. Turning around, I watch as Sasha's eyes darken, her lips quivering. "Ready?" I ask. All she does is nod her head, and we're heading up into the darkness of the night. "Jake?" I call out, turning into my bedroom. It's pitch black. The window rattles from the wind slamming against it. "Ramon?" Still, I get no answer, but I refuse to give up. Venturing further into the pit of black that has consumed my bedroom, I search through every corner until, once more, I come up empty-handed. "I don't think they're..." That's when the closet door swings open and two shadows jump out and startle Sasha and I. We collapse to the hardwood floors. My elbows scream in agony at the harsh contact. My eyes are shut, my heart racing as I fear for my life. Just a mere shell on the floor, but at the sound of Sasha scoffing and yelling, "What the hell, guys?" I open my eyelids to find Jack and Ramon in the glow of my flashlight like deer in the headlights, except they're laughing. "Not cool." I refuse the hand that Ramon holds out for me. I, along with Sasha, head back downstairs with them trailing behind us. They never do apologize for scaring the absolute shit out of us. And the rest of the night is just spent watching a couple movies until they leave, and Sasha and I pass out on the couch. It's when I wake up in the morning, Sasha not beside me, and a cool breeze tickling the ends of my skin that sleep gives way, and I sit up, calling out to my friend, but receiving no answer. I catch a sight of the curtains dancing in the breeze to my side. The living room window is wide open. Damn it, Sasha. It's freezing. Why on earth would she open the window? I can tell it's morning. The streaks of sun peeking out from behind the clouds is evident enough. Maybe it was my mom who opened the window, but why would she? She's always super harsh on keeping them closed when the heater is on. Before I can shut the window, I catch sight of something and my blood runs cold. There are clearly two large and muddy footprints on the windowsill, looking as if they're entering the house. There's no sign of exit footprints. A mess of dirt built up beneath the window on the wood flooring. "Sasha!" I call out to her, simultaneously shutting the window and running around the house looking for my friend. I call her name a number of 10 more times before finally getting an answer. What? She groans from behind my bedroom door. I barge in, finding that she's waking up, pushing the bed sheets aside and sitting up, rubbing her eyes. Why are you in here? I ask, clearly remembering she and I fell asleep around 2 o'clock in the morning on the couch. Sasha looks just as bewildered as I do. Suddenly, she opens her mouth, saying something about as frightening as those footprints. You brought me up here last night. No, Sasha, I didn't. Yes. She's panicking now, getting up from the bed and stalking towards me, almost furious. Yes, you did, Melanie. You woke me up and carried me to your room. I just assumed you were cold and wanted to go to your room. I was sleeping downstairs. There were footprints leading into the house from outside. Screw this. She grabs her bag. We gotta tell the police. For once, I agree. Sasha and I made it outside just in time to find my mom tiredly walking up the pathway to the front door. Mom, thank goodness! I scream. Mel, how many times have I told you not to mess with the garden? She sighs impatiently. What? I ask, confused to say the least. She just points behind her to her usually well-kept garden. She waters the plants every day, but now there's nothing left to water. The roots of her plants have all been ripped clean out. Dirt is scattered over the sidewalk. It leads right towards the living room window. Mom, we need to go to the police, now! I argue, reaching for her car keys and forcing her to get in the car as I drive us there. She is clearly too tired to fight and obliges. The entire way to the police station, Sasha fills my mother in and thankfully she believes us. At least, that's until the cops swarm our house and search every corner of the interior as well as the exterior. To my dismay, when they finish their job, they just up and leave. One of the officers steps in front of my mother, Sasha and I, his face pulled into an expression resembling that of annoyance. There's no sign of forced entry, or any entry for that matter. He crosses his arms over his chest impatiently, a pointed look set on Sasha and I. My mother frowns. Meanwhile, I shake my head furiously. No, there was an intruder. I promise. Did you see the footprints? I pray this isn't really happening right now. I did not make this up. Miss. The officer pinches the bridge of his nose, looking displeased and overall exhausted. There was no footprints, nor sign of any dirt ever being tracked into the house. Please, you have to believe us. Sasha pleads, but my mother lets the officer go, and soon we're left in front of the house that I no longer call home. Once Sasha leaves, my mother lectures me on false emergencies and my crazy imagination. I have no proof, nothing to back up my story with, so I simply agree with her, telling her I'm sorry, meanwhile glancing at the living room window periodically. I know I'm not going crazy. I know it. I know this because I swear to God the entire night I get this feeling almost like someone is watching me. I can't describe it. I just know. My theories are proven correct when I wake up to my closet door propped open and what looks like to be an imprint of somebody's body recently being sat at the end of my bed. Throughout the entire week, this continues. I'm sure that the heavy breathing coming from my closet and the feeling as if someone is watching me isn't just my imagination. Yet, every time I tell my mother, she just brushes it aside and tells me I'm hallucinating. She even goes so far as to put me on meds, something that will help me with my anxiety and false assumptions of somebody watching me sleep. By Friday, I admit nothing too out of sorts has occurred, and I've even managed to get some sleep the past couple nights, but tonight is not one of those nights. That's all because of this afternoon and what information I discovered. I was sitting at my desk working on homework. The desk faces away from the closet, so I couldn't see it, but I heard it. The thump from within that closet. The dreaded closet. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end and my heartbeat quickened. I wasn't sure if I should move or call my mother, who was probably still sleeping across the hall. So I chose neither, and instead, I decided to use my brain and hopefully get proof that I wasn't crazy. Slowly but surely, I reached for my phone on the desk and I lifted it just above my head. I took not one, but 2 quick photos from above my head of the closet door. With my heart racing, I opened up my camera roll and scrolled through the 2 recent photos. At first, I saw nothing but darkness behind the shutters the closet door is made of. Then, I saw it. Oh God, I saw it. I swore in that moment my heart sank and I no longer was breathing. My phone dropped to the floor, and without a second of hesitation, I ran from the room and into my mother's because on my phone, from within that closet, was a pair of bloodshot eyes, pupils so small it was sickening. A wide and malicious smile, equally as frightening, etched into the face I couldn't see. The lips were so deformed. It still haunts me. "Mom!" I jumped on her bed, shaking her and forcing her to wake up, and as she did, I didn't give her enough time to react before I pulled her across the hall towards my room. To my utter terror, the closet door was wide open, hangers still rattling. My phone was lying face down, and I hoped that it was like that when I left it. "What's going on?" My mom groaned. I didn't answer her. Instead, I thought that the photos were proof enough, but the proof was gone. Deleted from not only my camera roll, but from the recently deleted files as well. No, I cried. God, it felt like I was sinking into the pit of hopelessness. "It was here, Mom. I swear!" With a disappointed look in her tired brown eyes, her lips stretched downward into a frown as she says, "Honey, when will this need for attention stop?" "It's not." I have no time to finish. My mother simply rests a hand on my shoulder and squeezes, telling me not to worry, that she'll call the doctor and up the dosage of meds. It's hopeless. My own mother doesn't believe me. Why would she? All proof and evidence is obliterated before I can show anyone. Once my mom left the room, I sat on my bed and gave Sasha a call. She didn't answer, so I texted her, asking if she'd come over. Several minutes later, she replied. She told me that her mom banned her from seeing me after the incident of these passing weeks. Her mother thinks I'm mental too. A couple minutes later, my mom came back in asking if I had taken her favorite blue sweater. I told her to check the closet, seeing as I sometimes took her warm winter sweaters, just because she's the same size as me. Before she left with what she came in looking for, she had looked at me and said, "You gotta get rid of that old matted sleeping bag in your closet." I waved her off and muttered an "okay" before continuing to scroll through my phone aimlessly. It was 5 minutes later when I realized something. I never owned a sleeping bag. Thanks for watching, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your story, my email and subreddit will be in the description below. And also, if you're not subscribed, please do if you want. And don't forget to like and comment as well. Have beautiful nightmares. And I will see you next time.